You better wait a minute. I'm over here cussing.
It's all right. I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel says I'm joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We're here to discuss the Marx Brothers movie Animal Crackers from 1930. This was released by Paramount of all studios way back when. So I have to ask you guys: is this the first Marx Brothers movie released by Paramount ever?
Nope.
It's the second. The first was Coconuts, based on their first Broadway play.
Mm-hmm.
They had I guess, a silent film before that, or a very
There
short
was-
talkie.
Yeah, there was one that was
Humoresque.
humorous that is lost.
Yeah. So they, so this here,
You're overwhelmed by their comic genius, aren't you, Joel?
well, what I found interesting about this movie is the Marx Brothers. I like how they play three different characters. I feel like, in a weird way, there's movies that sort of rip off from this a bit.
Oh, yes.
Like there's a lot like
Unforgiven.
Yeah, Citizen Kane, you know, Joseph Cotton and Orson Welles have that kind of Chico Marco
All the President's
Groucho.
Men.
Yep. The movie version of Equus.
Well, of course. It always comes back to that.
Mm-hmm.
I was more going Caddyshack. I felt Caddyshack ripped from this movie a bit.
There's a movie called Brain Donors with John Turturro. If you want to see a movie that is a modern day Marx Brothers movie, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, it really is. When I first saw it, I first saw that in the 80s. And yes, we will get to Animal Crackers. Don't worry, viewers. We will get there. But when I saw it, I'm thinking, you know, this is such a Marx Brothers riff. And doing a little research, it was like, yeah, it was deliberate. I think it's done by one or two of the same guys who did Airplane. Like this was one of their pre-Airplane efforts.
It was a wacky project. A good movie.
So when did you guys first see this movie? Gordon?
Oh, well, I first saw it when I was a kid because, you know, at the time, you know, you only had, you had your 3 to 4 you have 3 to 4 major television stations, and you had a bunch of UHF stations. And every New Year's Eve, it was ABC, Channel 7. It was usually way after Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. They would show a Marx Brothers movie or two. So they usually would pair this with Duck Soup, which is their last movie for Paramount. So I started getting into it very early, and then they had like afternoon movie. The same channel had afternoon movies, so I would watch the rest of their Paramount. You know, Horse Feathers, Monkey Business. I never really saw the Coconuts, so that wasn't part of the mix. And then their MGM stuff. The first two for MGM, Day at the Races and A Night at the Opera. Also, the names of two great Queen albums. We're not going to go there. Would show up on another channel called Family Classics, and Family Classics was hosted by a gentleman named Fraser Thomas. So imagine, if you will, imagine Patrick, except he's clean shaven, he's wearing a nice suit and tie, and he's been drinking decaf, and he's talking about all these great. He has a Leonard Maltin-esque personality. Of course, Fraser Thomas was also the creator of Garfield Goose, who was this puppet, a goose puppet, who had like it was like a comb, but the two halves of the comb would go, "So Garfield, what's up today?" Oh, there's a cat behind me? See, this is, yeah, so I have been a lifelong Marx Brothers fan, and Joel, if you say anything negative about this movie or the Marx Brothers, just remember, I'm 3 states away, and I once did serious damage to a man with a broken lawn chair. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
Don't even think about it.
I've got questions about that. But anyway, Patrick, when did you first see this movie?
I saw this in 1981 on cable. I had heard about the Marx Brothers for a long time. The most I had seen was The Best of Groucho, which was the recycled You Bet Your Life that was in syndication. So when I saw the real thing, it was amazing. And I think Animal Crackers was the first of those I saw. Cable was showing them back to back with Coconuts. And then around the same time, the movie theater where I saw Life Force was showing Animal Crackers and Coconuts, just back to back all day. It was insane. My father and I went late at night and saw it. And yeah, that was a real Marx revival in Louisville. There was a documentary called Marx Brothers in a Nutshell that had just hit PBS. And so they were promoting it a lot. I think there was just a lot of new Marx Brothers awareness. The revivals of the Marx Brothers would kind of come in waves. We're due for another one. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Here's something I found weird, not about this movie. I noticed that, because I have seen Duck Soup, I noticed that Duck Soup is more of the televised one out of the two. Why is that?
It's super short. It's only like about an hour and 10 minutes long. Secondly, it's considered their masterpiece. In fact, there are Marx fans who will argue that they have one of two masterpieces. It's either Duck Soup or it's A Night at the Opera.
Oh. I mean, I agree with you that Marx fans contend that. There's no question in me between those two films.
Yeah, it's Duck Soup.
I just found that really weird.
Ironically, on this very set, which is also available on DVD, except you don't get the restored Animal Crackers.
And if you read Roger Ebert's essay about Duck Soup, you'll find that he quotes me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I first saw this movie today, thanks to you two gentlemen. Really interesting movie. I think it's very funny. It's not my first Marx Brothers movie I've seen. The first one is Duck Soup, which, because Duck Soup is heavily televised by TCM mostly. I believe they showed it like 4 times within a year at one moment. I don't know. It's like,
at the same time, just a few seconds off.
No, it wasn't at the same time. It was just in 1 year. But they did not show this movie, which to me they should. This movie to me is slightly better than that, in my opinion.
Different syndication packages also. This might have cost more. There could have been all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, I'm sort of, well, I'll have to check, but because I have Paramount Plus, I don't know if this is on there, but I'll have to check.
The rights to these things go back and forth. They go all over the place. Yeah,
well, that too, and they're for a time, Paramount, though it was on there, like the picture was on there, they had trouble showing Once Upon a Time in the West. I'm thinking, why? And then all of a sudden, you could one day out of the blue, you could watch it. I'm like, what's the
and that's how sometimes the Marx Brothers rights go back and forth.
Yeah, and sometimes I was fortunate enough to see a production of this on stage in 2009 at the Goodman Theater.
Live cast?
Live cast.
That's great. How was it?
It was great. I mean, I was surprised. They had, I don't know if they did it because of a budget or just because of the nature, because it was at the Goodman Theater, which is like that and Steppenwolf were like the two big, but they would have people, so like they had an actor named Joey Slotnick, who's one of those, he's a character actor. He was on Boston Public. He's on Leverage Redemption in The Mastermind Job. He also played a lawyer on SVU, but who hasn't been on Law and Order. But he would do the Groucho thing, but then when there were other actors on the scene, he might be a waiter without the Groucho makeup, just walking through. So, but it's actually quite funny live. They also hired a woman to play the Harpo part. So, I don't think she had like a harp solo, but she was a professional clown, so she was able to bring that energy to the role.
One of the Marx Brothers plays a captain who seems to be an explorer. One plays a musician in this movie.
And the professor. Don't forget the professor. And
One plays a
Zeppo.
Messiah. You left out a Hunga Dunga. It's the most important one.
Who was it? What did you say?
You left out a Hunga Dunga.
Yeah, it's Hunga Dunga, Hunga Dunga, Hunga Dunga, Hunga Dunga, and McCormick. You're really A.B. the Fishman, aren't you? Really A.B. the Fishman, A.B. the Fishman.
The movie's just ripe to bursting.
How did you wait? Before we continue, how in the hell did you break your lawn chair?
I didn't say I broke a lawn chair. I said I will hurt you with a broken lawn chair.
Yeah,
Then it got broken. How did it get broken?
I don't know.
Joel, you're thinking about this too much. I said I would hurt you with a broken lawn chair. I will find a lawn chair, break it, and hurt you with it.
Now I see the order of operations.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Now Joel can absorb damage.
Okay, here's one for you guys. Who's out of the Marx Brothers? Who's your favorite?
Whichever one would win against Ric Flair.
Well, I think that would be all of them. I mean,
that's true. My favorite Marx brother, I'm probably Groucho. Everybody always wants to start going off to, Harpo, he's great, or Chico. But basically, think about this. You have any of the other Marx Brothers, but no Groucho. It's not a Marx Brothers movie. I don't care what you say. Mm-hmm. If one of them, for whatever reason, happened to not be in it, it'd be a weird Marx Brothers movie. It'd still be a Marx Brothers movie.
Jordan?
I'd have to say Groucho as well, because Chico is a good setup guy. He's good for keeping the comedy rolling. Harpo is good at just being he is a better silent comedian than Charlie Chaplin ever was.
Yeah.
And he's great, but I also think Groucho he's the guy who is your focus of attention. Chico really needs somebody to spark off. He's not really a good solo act. Harpo you can do that kind of silent stuff with, but that would get kind of boring. He's the refreshing pause. Yes. And everything else. But no, Groucho's definitely the one.
Here's a question. Did the Marx Brothers ever think about doing a spoof of the Three Musketeers?
I don't know. They didn't really go in for exact spoofs of narratives. Okay. That's more of a Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy or Judi Dench and Joan Plowright kind of thing.
Right. And actually, one of the songs that from the stage show that was not included in the film for time is called "We're Four of the Three Musketeers."
Oh, well, there we go. That's cool. So there we go.
And of course, Joel forgot Zeppo, because most of us do forget Zeppo.
The fourth Marx brother.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually 6 total, because there was also Gummo.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Carl, who was Pinko.
Mm-hmm. And then there was Richard, who was Lamo.
I don't think the Marx Brothers could take Ric Flair. He was trained by Vern Gagne.
I've said it for years.
So.
What, that Jules crazy? Oh, wait, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. No, I really enjoyed this movie from start. Let me tell you, I really enjoyed this movie from start to finish. I love the piano scene; is one of my favorites. I thought we were gonna get the piano lid shutting and somebody's fingers get caught in it, but we didn't. That's something I was expecting watching. What? Yes. What?
Why would you be expecting?
Was that a vape?
It was a Marx Brothers movie. No,
I think it's a weird kind of bong.
No, she's holding the fork.
Oh,
that she poked me with.
Where's she gonna put it?
Oh,
And my
Oh, in there.
pineapple.
oh man, those edibles look just like pineapple chunks.
Don't give away my secrets.
Ancient Chinese secret, huh?
Let's try to put up with Joel.
Jewel saying, "Don't you wear that dress
What?
tonight?"
Oh my god.
Jewel saying, "Don't you put on the red light?"
Oh my god. Anyway,
Oh, he's Jules
What's-
Sane, and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
what's you guys' favorite scene in this movie?
The band negotiation about rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
And when I guess it's the cop is giving Harpo the long lecture about how good it'll be if he turns himself in and keeps shaking his hand, just silverware keeps falling out of it.
I'd have to say the scene between Trico and Harpo is like, we need the flesh. What's the flesh?
Oh
That's a
God, all those
fish.
things coming out of his coat.
No, that's a fish. I want the flesh. The flesh. No. I want the flesh. When you want to make it dark and you see, when you see a light and make it dark, what do? No, it's a flitz. It's a flutes.
Yeah.
But
I
Joe,
like
I'd like to ask you. It sounds like you're not very enthused about this movie. It sounds like you're just, oh yeah, it's interesting. Because
Well,
usually
I
when
thought-
people say
I
something
think
is interesting, it's their way of saying, I really didn't care for it, but I don't
Well,
want to hurt your feelings.
Did
It's the
I
worst about
say?
food.
Did I say like?
Now he'll say that. He
Did
didn't really care for it, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. He'll just say that. He does it all the time to me. Don't want to hurt your feelings, hon, but I didn't really care for that. Okay.
hey, didn't
My
I say-
gastroenterologist said that once
Wait,
to me.
didn't I say going in? I felt the Marx Brothers were a little overrated.
You're
I hope.
Well, you would be wrong. They are not overrated.
Who overrated them?
You're overrated, Joel.
I said in my opinion.
Who do you prefer? You're a Rich Brothers
Really
fan.
nobody, because look, I've seen the Stooges, I've seen the Marx Brothers, I've seen Laurel and Hardy. I just think now I will say for the Marx Brothers, their stuff was different than anybody else's, which is good. When you see comedy, you just don't want a repeat of it.
You really
Like-
want to get him fired up? Ask him about Rob Zombie's movies.
But some of them, yeah.
Yeah. That'll really burn his biscuit.
Some of them, yeah.
Okay, but we're not talking Rob Zombie. He's never made a Marx Brothers movie, so
Yeah, we're
I
talking
know,
Marx
but if you
Brothers.
really want to burn his biscuits, talk to him
Some of
about
them.
Rob Zombie's movies.
Some of them, yeah.
There's a lot of
This-
Marx Brothers trivia in Rob Zombie's movies. This
This-
is true.
yeah.
Like-
But has he done any movies that are like brain donors?
No, but I bet he'd like to.
I think with every comedy or every comedic actor you see should be different. Like I wouldn't compare the Marx Brothers to the Three Stooges or Laurel and Hardy because they were different. And that's one thing I'll give them. They were different for their time, and for their time, they were funny. They were edgy for their time. I would say you could put their stuff on today and it would still be considered edgy. Simply because everybody loves to play Snowflake.
Why
And-
did you
and-
guys put that thing on towards me?
no.
Oh, sorry. I'm just used to people calling me Snowflake.
No. That audiences are too sensitive, but for this, are they funny? Yeah. I just don't. To me, they're not in my top echelon of funny. They're funny, yes.
You think Victor Borgia is the pinnacle of comedy, don't you, Jewel?
No, not at all. I don't.
You have
think
no
there's
idea what I'm talking about.
I
mean,
don't think there's
Patrick
a
knows who
pinnacle
Victor
of
Borgia
comedy.
is.
I don't think there's
It's a
pinnacle of-
generational thing.
I don't think there's a pinnacle of comedy. I just think comedy is it's about timing, and it's often subjective to the audience who hears it and sees it. or is opinionated about it. Like, okay, I wouldn't, for example, I've heard Richard Pryor and I've heard Dennis Miller. I wouldn't compare the two. I wouldn't compare Arsenio Hall to, Eddie Murphy or anybody else. There's different comedians and comedian acts. Who was the one actor who I'm trying to think of? The guy who did the Pink Panther.
Steve Martin.
No, not Steve Martin.
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers, who could be funny, very funny on screen. Somebody said, "Oh, why don't you tell us a joke?" He said, "I'm not a comedian, I'm an actor." And I think there's a key difference between the two, and he's right. Like, Peter Devon, who can be funny, but he's not a comedian.
You want me to show you comedy, Jewel?
Sure.
Yeah, I bet you would. That's spoken like a true Homo erectus.
And that's not a compliment either.
You're laughing. That's comedy. I'll show you other comedy. Jewel, I can't believe what you said about your wife. How could you say that about your wife? She's so wonderful. And you said that? Okay, Gordon, let's sit back and watch. Comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, this is better than Blazing Saddles, which ironically was the first movie I conned my dad into taking me to see.
Hey, you told us about that. It's a good story.
You conned your dad into take you to see Blazing Saddles?
Well, here's what happened, and I know I believe I've told this story on this show before, but pay attention, Joel, because there are lessons here. Yeah. Blazing Saddles was re-released in the mid-'70s. I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and I want to see it because all my great grammar school friends, and we're in Catholic school, so yeah, I expect this. It's like I go to my mom and I say, hey mom, can I go see Blazing Saddles? No, you can't. You can come with me. No. And my parents were divorced, so it's the weekend. My dad has me. Hey dad, and dad, like most divorced dads who grew up in the 50s, a lot of guilt. They're trying to be good parents, even though they're alcoholic and not really competent. Dad's like, what do you want to do this weekend? Can we go see Blazing Saddles? Oh, what's it like? It's a comedy. It's a Western. Dad liked comedy, So I told him a couple of lines I heard from my friends, and he took me to see it. And then he told mom he told me to see it. And I was grounded. But I am proud that I got to see Blazing Saddles as a kid.
Okay, you guys are Marx Brothers. You guys are big Marx Brothers fans. Where do you rank the Marx Brothers in your echelon of comedy?
Top 5, easily.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, and not in any particular order. Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, Three Stooges, Mel Brooks, and the Smothers Brothers.
Patrick?
Top 5 comedy people?
Yeah.
I would say Terry Southern, the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, Michael O'Donoghue, and maybe Albert Brooks.
Yeah. Very, very good.
And Charlie Chaplin, completely overrated.
Yeah, absent on both our lists. W.C. Fields.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely put Fields in there. Fields is a movie I can't teach anymore. Young people have that you can feel a discomfort in the room the moment he's on the screen, and I can't explain it.
Do you think
15 years ago it wasn't the case?
Do you think that's just a generational thing, or what?
I do. There's just something about his humor that is, just his presence, his voice, that is anathema.
Yeah,
and I can't figure out what it is.
Well, I think this is one of the big kind of complaints I have about modern comedy. With Fields, there was a nastiness to it, but it was also couched in a certain kind of tone, in a certain kind of way, very dismissive. But modern comedy, and Patrick, you've talked about how there's really no real comedies made anymore. Usually they fall into one of three types. One is the gratuitous reference. It's, hey, remember this? It was a thing. Get it. Here's the joke.
Yeah.
The second is usually the mismatched couple. Sometimes it's a romantic comedy, sometimes it's a buddy comedy, but it's just more like, hey, look, they're not getting along. They're wacky. And the third is basically mean for meanness sake. It's like South Park. They used to be funny when they didn't really take themselves seriously, but they were making good points. But then it became, oh wait, we're the defenders of we're against censorship, and we're the defenders, and we're satirists, and that's when the humor went because it became about poking. It was like comedy should always be about pulling down the rich and powerful, pulling down the people who kind of. It should question the system. It should never support it. And I feel like South Park goes into they're not maybe supporting it, but they're not the rebels that they think they are.
They love to play both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But then again,
Yeah, and they've got a new video game coming out, so hey.
Why they're just gonna kill Kenny in the middle?
Yeah, they're gonna kill Kenny.
In the South Park video game, do they like kill Kenny and he keeps coming back? Like, is he like the ultimate player character everyone wants to be? Because no matter what happens, he comes back and he's like, at one point he comes back and he's in zombie mode. Then he dies and comes back with like superpowers, and then he comes back with like a sort of god.
Oh gosh.
You know how many times I've watched South Park?
No.
Too many.
Once. That was it.
Good for you.
What year?
Oh, let's see. 03, I think.
Okay, yeah, because by that time they'd started taking themselves super seriously.
Yeah.
I never really thought they were.
Guys, I have to take care of something.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Good night, or I'll be right back. One of the other.
Okay, talk soon. But no, like when South Park was first on, this was 98, and I was engaged to be married. And now the relationship didn't work out, but a lot of times, my then fiance and I would quote each other's South Park lines. Like one of them was in an episode, Stan is getting beat up by a girl, and Cartman at that point was my role model because he would say things like, "Oh, I'd never let a woman kick my ass. If she tried anything, I told her to get her ass in the kitchen and bake me some pie." I would recommend you not say that to your wife, Joel. That would not be a smart move. I became suddenly single.
Hon.
Yeah, I became suddenly single because of that. Well, she was cheating on me. So,
in all honesty, though, he would say that to me if I knew it was from like something like that. I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah.
I'd be like, really? Yeah, and then I would say something funny back to him.
Yeah, but it used to have that edge in like the first couple of years, but then it went real.
Yeah.
We're like this movie, scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it?
I give it a 10. Because it's also, you have to understand, not only is it a very solid construction, is it well made as a movie, you have to understand that this was probably the closest we'll ever come to. The Marx Brothers had a long history of being on stage in vaudeville, on Broadway, and in reviews. So they had years to refine this. So by the time the Coconuts in this were made, first they were in their 40s, but they had really worked through a lot of this material. So their first movie, The Coconuts, has not really aged well because it's very much, it's the way it's shot. It's very stagey. So it's like you've got the set, there's a camera. Here, the direction's a little bit easier because you move from, say, a crowd scene to the top of the stairs. You see the thing come down. There's a little bit more action to it. I also think this is probably the most coherent plot of the two, because The Coconuts is basically about a hotel in Florida. Because in the 1920s, there was a land rush to buy like land in Florida, and a lot of people would buy swampland. So it's a it's a kind of some of the jokes don't quite land the way they should because you have to be. They were jokes that you could get if you were at the time you could get, but if you have to explain the context, then it's really not funny. But Animal Crackers is the funnier of the two movies.
Patrick's like Kenny. He came back.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, scale 1 to 10. When do you give Animal Crackers?
10. It's 10. It's one of the great movies. Yeah.
I've said.
Hey, now I want to go watch this. What the heck's it on?
I'll show you here after bed.
I always go wait for you.
I do give this a 10. I've said this is better than Duck Soup, and I do think this is better than A Night at the Opera.
Yeah.
Night at the Opera is like really.
Well, A Night at the Opera. I mean, I enjoy it, but I think they were moving into a studio system where the producer, a man by Irving Thalberg, said, you know what, we can't just have these guys do stuff. We want to give them a plot. So if we have a villainous character, there's someone that they can bump off of. And MGM was very much a kind of
formulaic.
Basic, yes. Yeah, they were assembly line. Like it's the way the best way to describe it is that if the Marx Brothers were a band, Paramount was an indie label where it's just like, you know, you guys just rock out, just go in the studio, turn up the sound, go crazy. Because a lot of their films after this, you know, Horse Feathers, Monkey Business, Duck Soup, it's basically they're in a cruise ship, they're in a college, they run a country, go. And it's just crazy after crazy. At MGM, they do two pretty good films, Night at the Opera, Day at the Races. And then Thalberg dies in the middle of production of Day at the Races. So then you get Go West.
The Big Store.
At the circus. And the Big Store. And then that starts their, you know, the Big Store is supposed to be their retirement, but they keep coming back. So you've got A Night at Casablanca, which is kind of I see it as the Marx Brothers' greatest hits. It's not the best Marx Brothers movie, but there's enough bits from other movies where you can go, okay, yeah, fine. It's a greatest hits. Then there's Room Service, which is a play that was designed. It's supposed to be a Harpo starring turn, but it's like, hey, let's just throw the Marx Brothers because Chico had a gambling problem and a lady problem. And so he was always in debt. And so his brothers had to bail him out. And then they ended with Love Happy, which I've never seen, and I have no intention of ever seeing.
Love Happy's okay.
Oh,
Marilyn
okay.
Monroe's in that. Yeah, Love Happy is actually okay.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
What I would have liked to see them do, and I'm surprised they didn't do this because at the time, the 30s, have the Marx Brothers be in like a comedy gangster movie where they get hired.
They played off well, but gangsters at this time were really owned by Warner Brothers.
I know.
Yep, and also Horse Feathers. One of the subplots involves the subplot involves a speakeasy. Monkey Business was on the cruise ship. There are gangsters on it. So Jewel, you got your wish.
Okay. Is that streaming anywhere or?
Yeah, Monkey Business and Horse Feathers, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What is it streaming on Tubi or anything or?
You'd have to do a little digging.
Yeah, I can go to YouTube.
Okay.
Even if you just do like the best scenes from those movies, because they're short movies, they're only like an hour and 10 minutes, but the stuff is you know.
Horse Feathers is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it a check out for sure.
Yeah, first there's a captain, then there's a lieutenant, then there's a corpuscle.
What do you guys want to discuss next?
Jewel, have you seen a movie called Being There?
No.
I don't know. Gordon, what do you think?
Well, I've never seen it, so.
Oh, it's a really good movie. Peter Sellers got an Oscar nomination for it. It was his last great movie.
Mm-hmm. I think we should talk of many things, of ships and sailing wax, of cabbages and kings. And ironically, there's a local news show in the 70s called Of Cabbages and Kings. I don't know if they spoke about actual cabbages and actual kings, though.
No, I tuned in. I stopped watching because they didn't.
Where can you find Being There? Is it streaming anywhere?
I'm sure it is. You might want to noodle around a little
Here,
bit.
let's look this up on.
It's a really good movie. It's a strange movie. It's one of the last great movies of the 1970s.
Well, let's see. It's on Amazon Prime, Google Play, Vudu, YouTube, and Apple TV for rental.
Okay. I'll give it a check out.
When do you want to chat about it?
How's Wednesday night for you guys?
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Is 10:30 too late or?
That's fine.
Okay. So Wednesday at 10:30, we'll discuss Being There. I'll give it a check out, guys. Links to Gordon. Oh, wait, is there anything you guys want to add about this? Animal Crackers?
No, it's a terrific movie.
Yeah, go see.
Just watch it with the fact that it was, basically a filmed stage play in mind, and it's a great movie.
I like the scene where the one guy he goes, the check's good, and they bounce it off the floor. It's not good. That was good.
But I want to leave you with this word from the movie. We must always remember, Jewel, that art is art. But then again, water is water, and east is east, and west is west. And if you took cranberries and stewed them in applesauce, it tastes more like prunes than rhubarb does. So you go ahead and tell me what you know, Joel.
I still know that Ric Flair was trained by Greg Gagne. Yeah. By the way, I have a little story about that before you go.
Story about Ric Flair?
Well, Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne, who trained Ric Flair, he owned a training school, okay? Ric Flair was going to quit his school. Again, Ric Flair was just breaking in. He was being taught wrestling by Vern. They were by themselves. Vern went up to him and smacked him right in the face and knocked him on his ass. And he said, "You quit, and I'll beat the hell out of you." That's who Vern Gagne was. So there's that.
Yeah, but the paradox is if Ric Flair quit and ran like hell, Donda couldn't find him. Like, what's he going to do? Like, let's see. I'm going to go to all the hairdressers and look for a guy with a really bad bleach job? No, I don't think so.
He would have found him. Vern would have found him. Vern's a tough guy.
I think we put Patrick to sleep.
Links to Gordon.
It's safe to wake up now, Patrick. The wrestling stuff's over.
Link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be the description box. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook About is going to be the description box. Go watch Animal Crackers and get back to me and how you feel that the Marx Brothers are overrated. If you agree with me, if not, just leave your hate tweets at Colin.
Yeah, and leave in the comments if you think Jewel is dead wrong and you agree with Patrick and I, because you'd be on the right side of that argument.
Yeah. You must be. I'll see you guys Wednesday night. Take care.
Good night.